good morning. I'm going to start by just introducing who I am. So I'm Henry Godwin, and before leaving Broadcom in March of this year to join Civo, I led the Northern European cloud service provider business for VMware for 5 years. And this Northern European region was the largest by revenue and most diverse territory in the world for VMware, and also in terms of the number of CSPs and the product adoption rates beyond vSphere around the world. Before I hand over to Dinesh in a short while, I wanted to summarize what I'm going to cover. So first of all, we'll level set on the key impacts of the Broadcom acquisition of VMware on its partners and end customers. Secondly, then share the ability of Civo to meet the goal of simplicity and speed and value for money for users and partners. And then finally, I'm going to finish with a personal story about making decisions which at the time may feel like tough choices, but in fact are much better for you when looking back. So first, let's look at the impact of Broadcom. Broadcom's actions have actually created a very positive energy to change within organizations and partners and how they run and plan the future of their IT. A lot of people talk about it in a negative sense, but when you get such a large amount of turbulence at once, it creates many positives. The downsides are that the immediate impact is that, as you can see here, there's a number of different things impacting organizations with immediate effect. The first one being that increasing costs at 3x and above. Broadcom's mandate is to charge at least 3 times the price of renewals from day one, with any renewal of perpetual licensing that comes up. And with regards to CSPs, with the change from a gigabyte VRAM model to a per core model, any CSP with a low density environment will have seen up to an 8x increase in the price of the same software. There's also uncertainty on pricing commitments. Because CSPs no longer use the VMware usage meters, they're uncertain about how many cores they should commit to, and subsequently everything uncommitted at a core level is then at a list price on demand. So there's a very, very significant commercial decision to make, which is really a finger in the air and a guess. Thirdly, the margin erosion from publicized pricing. With the price per core being published at $350, everybody knows the base price, and CSPs also know the discounts. So if they have to buy white label through a Pinnacle or a Premier partner, they know what to negotiate down to, and the Pinnacle partners now have a very thin margin for the privilege of aggregating their competitors' usage, and the risk that they then carry of committing cores to deliver those services rests with them. Fourthly, Broadcom has insisted on bundling unwanted products. So Broadcom forces CSPs to pay for the use of the full VCF stack, even though 80% of CSPs only ever really use vSphere and a few add-on products. And in the Northern EMEA region, there was a 20% penetration rate of add-on products with those service providers, and they were the most advanced region in the world. And also, partners are being disadvantaged by using VCF in its entirety. So, for example, if you use vSAN, you have to license your DR 24/7, 365, because vSAN backup requires it. So Broadcom will say, use more of the stack to make it more cost effective, yet in effect, it's actually costing you more. And then there's the increased risks by white labeling. So white labelers, so Pinnacle and Premier partners, front that. All the other CSPs have to buy through them. And as a result, there is a requirement in the future, very near future, that those white labeled partners have to expose their end user details to the Pinnacle partners, who then have to report it back to Broadcom as a request of Broadcom. So you're exposing not only your commercial models, but also your own install base to your competition. And there's no way to escape that. Second to last, the inflexible billing for CSPs has effectively been removed. Whereas from April 2024, CSPs were up until April 2024, CSPs were on a pay-go model, and therefore they could flex up and down to their minimum commit contracts. That value disappeared overnight when Broadcom insisted on a minimum core commit, and there's no option to decrease it in the 3-year commit period, only increase. And in addition, Broadcom can, as a part of the transaction document, so not the partner agreement, but the actual transaction document, they can increase the price 7% year over year. It's written in the document. So there's no doubt that Broadcom will take every opportunity to do that. And finally, by Broadcom buying VMware and unlocking customers and partners in, although VMware is also very, very good, it is essentially proprietary. And as a result, when acquired, end users and CSPs are locked in and locked in for longer because of the commercial impacts. Now, there is an alternative, and that alternative, dare I say it, is illustrated by Civo's CEO and founder Mark Boost, when he says that the cloud, and when I say cloud, I mean private clouds, now that Broadcom has bought VMware as these on-premise private clouds, as well as public clouds, the clouds are broken. And what Civo is doing is reimagining cloud computing and setting the bar for what a modern cloud provider should look like if it was built today. And when I was working with my VMware pre-sales colleagues in the past, they said to me that when they evaluated Civo, if VMware was going to create VMware software today, they'd do it like Civo have done it. And when I say this, it's because the software has been built in such a way that it enables all the integrations that VMware stuck together to effectively not ever be coded in, because they were never ever needed to be coded in when you build a software stack like CivoStack from the ground up. But ultimately, what we're trying to do here is challenge the status quo of private cloud providers and hyperscale providers and proving that there's a better way. And this is what we're going to do through the course of this presentation. Just to put some meat on the bones in terms of substance behind Civo's evolution, this is an enterprise solution, and Civo's largest customer powers their $2 billion revenue business to host clients like Coca-Cola and L'Oreal, Nestle, Homebase. So the stack is built on very, very solid foundations, and it's designed to scale. And as a result of that, large organizations are very comfortable already in using the Civo stack to run their own businesses, because ultimately what we're providing here is a software layer to manage the infrastructure so no one has to worry about it when they're running their day-to-day business. IT isn't their business. What their business is effectively run on the IT. But let's look into the past before we look into the future. In the past, I'm quoting Andy Jassy here, AWS CEO in 2012, the customers love the fact in the cloud they get to pay a lower variable expense than they can do on their own because of those economies of scale that were promised in terms of having access to large amounts of infrastructure, but because AWS could buy it at huge scale and therefore better pricing, passing on those price advantages to the consumer. Now, consider the fact these expectations were set 10 years ago. The reality is, well, actually, the same challenges exist today as they existed 10 years ago. Managing cloud spend is a significant cost burden. The security around cloud is still very vulnerable, and the lack of resources and expertise is still very much at the forefront of resourcing and employing people in IT departments. And what's more, not only is the overall cost of public clouds very expensive, more so often than actually running it yourself, but also FinOps departments have had to be created, so an additional human expense to be able to work out the best way to optimize the cost of using the public cloud in the first place. When 10, 12 years ago, the message was, we're going to help save you money, be more performant, and be more flexible. And the opposite seems to be happening. So what's Civo's mission? Civo's mission is that we want to build a cloud that is fair, is equitable, is open, which stays true to the original promise of the cloud by supporting business growth and not hindering customers through escalating costs or vendor lock-in or all the other things that are taken from your control. We want to be able to provide and give control back and meet those aspirations that are set 12 years ago and actually make them a reality. So much so that the work that Civo has already done has been recognized by Forbes and very kindly called Civo the hyperscaler shaker, and in effect provide a lightweight touch to what are equivalent of heavyweight clouds. And on top of that, some of the work that we've been doing over the years, and CivoStack is a 6-year in production technology, it's not a recent invention, is that we have great endorsements from very well-known names in the industry. Steve Wozniak, when he came and set up the clusters live at Navigate last year, he said, this is incredible. And getting a cluster up and running is super fast and simple. And we have additional endorsement from the likes of the Rancher co-founder, Darren Shepherd. And it's just great that they see the quality of the technology, have used it with all their own experience and capability and ability, we're able to very willingly share these kind of testimonials. So that gives me a lot of confidence that what we're talking about today is based on a significantly substantial base of investment, robustness, testing, building the software from the ground up by people who have been through the IT industry and scarred by the process for the last 25 years. So in effect, what Civo's doing is challenging the status quo in a very positive way. And we're reimagining cloud computing by lowering costs rather than increasing them, providing fair and predictable pricing rather than overpriced and unpredictable, reducing the complexity of the whole process. It should be simple so that people can run their businesses and the apps that run their businesses with comfort rather than worrying about managing those escalating cloud costs. And by supporting open standards, we're removing vendor lock-in. And by doing all of those things, combined with championing sustainable technologies, we believe that we can provide a service to the consumer that's going to be simpler, faster, and better value. So let me move to start with simpler. And I'm going to quote this, is that from Albert Einstein, genius is making complex ideas simple, not making simple ideas complex. And we're in a world right now where IT is becoming increasingly complicated when all that people want is simpler. So let's work together to reduce operational overheads, not increase them. And by providing a wide choice of automation tools, including our CLI, Terraform, Pulumi, and Crossplane options, it means that the consumer is in a much better place immediately from an operational standpoint, and then effortlessly manage it when it's set up. So we have a very powerful yet very simple user interface, which Dinesh will go and illustrate and show later on, and therefore enables people, I mean, I kid you not, the deploy and scale capability to do that across your infrastructure with ease it blows your mind. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, is this stuff real? And yeah, it's absolutely real. And then when you've effortlessly managed it, you want to make sure there's frictionless adoption. So it's built on the best of open source technologies and removing the lock-in that I mentioned before. And then finally, you want a simple path to production. And therefore, by easily applying resilient security and cloud native best practices, you get all of these things in a much more easily manageable way. So moving from simpler to faster. Let me give you a couple of stats. Kubernetes launched in less than 90 seconds. Kubernetes clusters in less than 90 seconds. Compute instances in less than 60 seconds. Machine learning platform launches in less than 10 minutes. So the launch time and therefore getting to the meat of the work happens almost instantaneously. Then building faster, within the CivoStack application front end, 90 plus marketplace apps, and therefore launch popular applications instantly from our marketplace that are managed and updated by Civo. And then finally, run faster. Because we're supporting open standards without lock-in and without other mandated standards, we're in a position where we can launch, build, and run. And from a data transfer speed, we're 3 times faster than hyperscalers. And from a storage point of view, 10 times faster than the hyperscaler providers. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that from a data transfer speed point of view and data transfer in essence, there are no egress fees with CivoStack at all. So let me give you a little bit of a comparison from a better value point of view. Our focus is on making sure that people can get the same amount of compute and storage and network and data transfer at a much more competitive cost. As I mentioned before, no egress fees and with very, very clear and transparent billing. No hidden charges, no other line that you have no idea what it means, and ultimately have a better quality of service for less and a much simpler engagement for the teams running that service within your companies. So I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation about the fact that we're talking about clouds, private, on-prem, public, and it's worth pointing out that Civo is in a position, having built the enterprise stack to run across all of those formats, to be able to provide a cloud that you want. Flexible, bespoke, value for money, and effortless, but across public clouds, across the 5 available public regions in North America and Europe. Private, so run a private deployment of Civo Cloud in your data center or have it hosted by Civo. Or if you've already had a recent infrastructure investment, just take the software and run the private deployment of Civo Cloud on your own hardware. And then from an edge point of view, run private edge instances, which are ideal for remote sites, such as manufacturing and labs. But let me stress this again. CivoStack Enterprise has been built by a team and its leaders who have started data center businesses. They've built CSPs. They've debundled telecom exchanges and been scarred by the evolution of IT over 25 years, which means that the user experience is paramount from Civo, and the software has been built with this in mind and all the bumps and glitches ironed out. So much so that the CivoStack Enterprise platform, as I said, runs across all of those different types of clouds. Same stack, same software in public, private, and edge, without the need to refactor apps or learn new platforms. And from a flexibility point of view, deploy where it adds the most value to your business. Bespoke it and configure it tailored towards your needs. And from a value for money point of view, get a much better return on investment when compared to other options as described earlier. And then effortless because it's fully managed and maintained and updated and supported 24/7, 365 days a year. I'm going to go out on a limb, but I'm very confident when I say this, is that Civo is, in that sense, unique because the on-prem software is the same as its public cloud. It can move workloads between the two. And as a result, anyone at any point in their cloud journey can use the software that suits them where they are most comfortable. Yeah, it's better value, faster and simpler for the user. Value-added services are provided by the partners. I've already mentioned it runs on new and existing hardware. It creates a recurring revenue model for the people who deliver those services and operates at enterprise scale. And in essence, from my experience of working at VMware and with the hyperscalers in my past life, the CivoStack Enterprise is an upgrade on VMware, where VMware was coming to an end. Civo starts before that and runs much further into the future. And it's a lot less expensive than the hyperscalers themselves.